Hello and welcome to episode 4 of my Japan Junk Journal with Me series. For those of you that are new here, my name is Wendy and I'm currently living in Japan, and I'm documenting my experience and adventures through journaling and visual storytelling. So welcome if you're new, and if at the end you enjoyed this video in any way, please don't forget to click the like button and also subscribe if you want to see more from me. So I just flicked through my journal to find a blank spot for my journal spread, and I'm just showing some ephemera here from what I will be journaling about today. This is a trip that we took. When I say we, my husband and my daughter and I, a trip that we took to Tokyo, and we went to a interactive museum and an Alice in Wonderland themed restaurant. So I'm just showing some of the things that I might end up using in this junk journal spread. I kind of pulled out some things to try to go along with the theme. I don't end up using all of these items. I'm just kind of showing you guys real quick things I might pull for when making this journal spread. So I have some stickers and some papers here from SERIA and DAISO, which are 100 yen shops here in Japan. And I also have some photos here that I printed on my Canon selfie. It is forever linked in my Amazon storefront, which you can find in the description of this video. It's my favorite photo printer for journaling. And right here I'm just showing the papers that I end up using. These are like little paper stacks that I purchased from SERIA, and these are like a vellum paper, so you can see through them, which I really liked. And the reason why I picked these papers, you'll be able to see why later, because it totally looks like the water in one of the museum exhibits that we went through. So that's the reason why I picked this paper, and also it's very, I guess, like magical looking to me, and it kind of fits the theme of Alice in Wonderland. So that's why I chose like a more colorful journal spread, which normally I do like a very vintage looking spread, but this one I just wanted to be bright and colorful. And then this is some stationery that I picked up from, I think, SERIA. I don't think I got this one at DAISO. But I decided I wanted to use that stationery set as my journaling spot. So I just set it aside, and I'm just going to run a glue stick over the back of these little papers and then glue them down to the page. And I do apologize for the view or angle at which I'm filming this journal with me. I know it's not ideal. It is easier for me to see what I'm like, making sure that I'm in frame, and making sure that the video doesn't stop or my battery doesn't die. It's ideal for me, but I know it's not ideal for the viewer. So I am working on coming up with a solution for filming and doing an aerial view again. I do have to look on Amazon and see if I can order something that would fit my needs and my space. So I am working on that to bring a better view to you guys. But right here, I'm just ripping up some of that paper, and I decided to put it at the top. And I like the look of torn paper. It just really adds an imperfect look to my journal spreads, which I prefer over straight lines. And so now I'll go ahead and get into the storytelling part of this video and tell you guys about what this journal spread is all about. So again, it is about a outing that my husband, my daughter, and I took to Tokyo on, I believe, the first week or weekend of January. So our morning started out by walking to the train station, where we boarded the train from Yokosuka to Tokyo, and we were going to Shimbashi station. So that's where I got this little book, was at actually the train station master's office, and I will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I'm just ripping out a page of Shinjuku is where our second stop was. So not the museum, not where we went to the museum, but when we went to the Alice in Wonderland restaurant, that was in Shinjuku. But again, our first stop was in Tokyo at Shimbashi Station, and we were actually going to Kodo, which is where the museum was. And real quick, the part that I tore out in the museum is where the Alice in Wonderland restaurant was. I circled it on the map. And I know I'm kind of telling this backwards because Alice in Wonderland was our last destination that day. But our first stop was, again, Shimbashi Station. We ended up having to walk about 1.5 miles to get to the museum because we actually boarded the wrong bus after we got off the train. And my husband also left our backpack on the train, which was an experience. We actually went to the station master's office right after we got off the train. I believe every train station has a station master's office, and we went in there and we're kind of trying to ask if there was like a lost and found or anything like that, or where we could go to get our belongings, our backpack. And the station master didn't speak English, but he was so sweet. He got a translator for us, which she was so sweet. And you guys, they tracked down our backpack. They called the next station, we gave them a description of the backpack, what train car we were in. We walked with one of the station master's assistants. We walked to the platform to show her what car we were on because we couldn't remember like the number. So we showed her where we got off, and you guys, they were able to locate our backpack at the next train station. They had someone go in there and get it for us. And it was at that next station waiting for us. So anyways, after we got off the train, again, we had to walk all the way to the museum, which was about 1.5 miles because we boarded the wrong bus and it was going in the wrong direction. But that is the story of where I got the map booklet from, was the station master's office. He gave it to us in English. And that was our whole train experience. So I just put down that's Alice in Wonderland stationery. I cut a little notch in it, as you saw, with using like a washi tape to draw an outline of a half circle, and then I just cut it out to create a notch, and then I stuck the stationery inside by folding it. And now I'm just using some double-sided tape to add a picture of my daughter at that Alice in Wonderland themed restaurant, which is also where I got this little Eat Me paper. It was on our like dessert tray. It was super cute. So of course I snagged that and I was like, you're going in the journal. And when we were paying our bill, the waitress gave us a few bags of these really cute Alice in Wonderland themed teas. And just look how cute this is. The little tab says drink me on one side, and then it has a teacup on the other. So I decided to use the string and use it as like a feature to be able to pull out that journaling paper easier. So I just used some Scotch tape and I taped it on the fold of the paper and then put it back inside. And then the tea bag I actually decided to use to hold another picture of my daughter. I thought it would be cute as a little pocket. But here is how it looks when I pull the tea tab. And again, I'm just using the tea bag itself as like a little pocket to hold this photo of my daughter and our waitress at the restaurant. She was so cute. Our waitress, she was so sweet, and she was dressed up as Alice. And I don't know who was more excited, myself or my daughter. I love Alice in Wonderland. It's been one of my favorite Disney movies since I was a kid. So I was very excited. And of course, my daughter was excited. With the whole restaurant, and of course eating desserts. That's all we ate at the restaurant, was just desserts, because we actually went out to have a late lunch, so we just ended up ordering desserts and drinks at the restaurant. And I know, again, I'm kind of jumping back and forth and telling the story of how our day went kind of backwards, but it just makes more sense to tell you guys about what I'm currently doing in my journal. and the experience behind it. So again, the restaurant was at the end of our trip, or the end of the evening, in Shinjuku. So now I will tell you guys about the museum called TeamLab Borderless, or TeamLab Planets, Tokyo. It is a must-see if you are ever in Japan. It's a huge tourist attraction, and for good reason, because it's just like a once-in-a-lifetime type of experience. I guarantee you've never seen anything like it. And it just totally goes with the whole Alice in Wonderland theme of this spread, because it's like you are in a wonderland. So now let me share this experience with you guys as much as I can and take you from room to room or exhibit to exhibit and show you some video clips and some pictures. So to go through the museum or experience all the exhibits, you actually have to go through barefoot. So we had to remove our shoes and put them in lockers before entering the museum. And the first room we went into, I call it the pillow room, but it's basically a huge room with an entrance and an exit, and you have to make your way to the exit while trying to walk on very, very, very deep pillows. So at points you're crawling, you're rolling, you're just trying to get to the other side, and it was super hilarious to see all of these people trying to walk across this room. And then after we get out of the pillow room, we start walking down a hallway, which is water. And that's the reason why you have to take off your shoes in this museum, because there is a lot of water features. And we kind of start walking up this hallway, and the water is coming down. And at the end, there is a waterfall. And then we are taken into another room where we can dry off our feet, and then enter a room of lights. And there were millions of these hanging, twinkling lights. And my husband found the app where we could change the colors of the lights, and he was really excited about that. But it was just so amazing. There were so many like mirrors that the lights would reflect off of, and it was truly just so magical. I've never seen or experienced anything like that. And it made for great photos as well. And my daughter loved that room. She felt like a fairy. So that was really fun. The next room was probably one of my favorites. It was I call it the fish room. It was a colorful room of water and fish. And that's where I got the inspiration to use that paper that I said in the beginning, that you guys will see why I chose that paper, because the water looked like the paper. All of the pink and yellow swirls, all of the colorful swirls in the water, and there was actually a projection of fish that made it look like they were swimming in the water, and my daughter loved that, and the water actually came up to our knees. So the next room we went into, we were able to dry our feet. And then this room or exhibit I called the Willy Wonka room, because it just reminded me of like gumballs, or the never-ending or the everlasting gobstopper. That's just what it reminded me of. And my daughter loved this room. You could actually move them around. So this was like one of her favorite rooms. This next room I called the Flower and Butterfly room. I think the exhibits actually had names, but I just wasn't paying attention because I was too excited. But this exhibit definitely reminded me of Alice in Wonderland, because it was a huge screen in the shape of like a half dome of butterflies and flowers. And you actually lay down in this exhibit and you stare at the ceiling, which again is in the shape of like a half dome, and it almost looks like you're really small. Again, bringing home the Alice in Wonderland feels. It just made you look like you were almost like shrinking into a garden of flowers and butterflies. So I thought that was a really neat experience, and I really loved this room, and I could have probably laid there all day and just stared at the ceiling. It was totally magical, and again, just really reminded me of Alice in Wonderland. The next exhibit was outside. We actually had to wear like little sandals, and I don't know, but for some reason this exhibit reminded me of the movie Cocoon from the 90s. My grandparents used to watch it and they loved that movie, but that's just what this exhibit reminded me of, just like these weird metal dome things on moss rocks. And then the very last room was my absolute favorite. It was a huge room full of real orchids and flowers that were hanging from the ceiling that moved. And we got to go sit under them, and I took lots of pictures, and this was just my favorite room. It was so beautiful, and I love flowers. And again, it just really brought in that Alice in Wonderland element. And we didn't even plan it that way, which was crazy, that the restaurant would be Alice in Wonderland. We had no idea what the art or museum exhibits would look like, but it's just so crazy how like the restaurant and then the museum tied into each other. And that's why I decided to do this whole spread Alice in Wonderland themed. It was a whole basis of this spread. I just thought it went so well together, and I did quite a bit of journaling in this spread. I actually ended up doing like 2.5 pages of journaling because I was explaining each of the rooms as we went through, or each of the exhibits, just how I explained them to you guys. And again, after the museum, we had a late lunch and then took the train over to Shinjuku, where we went to the Alice in Fantasy Book restaurant. That is what it is called. If you're ever in Japan and want to check it out yourself. But that's it for this journal spread. I just go back and add a couple of flower stickers to kind of tie into that whole Alice theme. And that's going to be pretty much it for this journal with me video. Again, I'm going to work on getting a better view or angle for filming these videos for you guys, but I did still want to include this video because I just thought it turned out so cute. I love how it turned out. I like how bright and colorful it is and all of the different elements. And so yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and thank you for allowing me to share my experience with you guys and my journeys. And I look forward to making more videos for you guys showing my adventures in Japan and journaling about them. So stay tuned for episode 5. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that video, and I will see you next time. Take care.